Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to take a little look at some cheeky Death Guard preview stuff. There's been a slight issue with the Death Guard stuff. It was supposed to be out before the end of the year, but there has been a delay to crucial shipping stuff that's meant that Games Workshop has had to push it to 2021, which is not great if you're a Death Guard player, but this does very much feel like one of those situations where Games Workshop really just has no control over it, which sucks, but it happens. What are you going to do? The thing is, this, I think, has kind of meant that they've done things a little bit differently for the Death Guard preview stuff, because generally speaking, we might get one or two, or we might get like a few rules here and there, a couple of days in a row. Death Guard have had their previews like scattered to the wind, so they've done one little thing every day. Now, we are on Thursday, not Friday, but I figured we'd cover the last thing, because I suspect it's probably going to be Crusade stuff tomorrow. So, I'm thinking we cover what they've put out so far this week, parts 1 to 4, and if there's anything fancy or exciting or absolutely mind-blowing tomorrow, we'll cover that then. If not, it's okay, because the main bulk of the stuff that everyone's going to use, well, it's in parts 1 to 4. I'm just assuming we're going to see Crusade stuff tomorrow, but I could be wrong. Either way, it's fine, we'll work something out. So, there's a lot of stuff to get through, kind of. Actually, there's about the same as a normal preview so far, it's just been split up, so let's take a look. So, part 1 is Inexorable Advance, which for some reason I always want to say Inexorable, but I don't think that's how that's pronounced, although it could be. Generally speaking, I can barely speak English, which is a shame, because it's the only language I know. But we'll go with what I said the first time. I've forgotten which one it was. Anyway, let's carry on. So, the Death Guard Codex is on its way early next year, now, and it features 5 key changes to their rules which will have an enormous impact on how these putrid servants of Nurgle operate on the battlefield. Let's take a look at the first lot. So, we have Inexorable Advance. The Death Guard trudge towards the enemy at a relentless pace, guns hammering in a staccato roar. Excellent use of the word staccato there. Nicely done. This unit counts as having remained stationary if it did not fall back or advance in your previous movement phase. Okay, if this unit has the vehicle keyword, it does not suffer the penalty incurred to its hit rolls for firing heavy weapons at enemy units that are within engagement range of it. Nice. And if this unit has the infantry keyword, it can ignore any or all modifiers to its move characteristic, advance rolls, and charge rolls. So basically, they've taken the whole Death Guard thing of just walking towards you whilst firing and not really going anywhere and just being, as the name suggests, inexorable, and yeah, that's very fluffy and very appropriate for the Death Guard. I really like the ignoring modifiers to move characteristics, advance rolls and charge rolls. Again, it makes them completely implacable. They can just walk towards you no matter what you do. I really like the vehicle thing as well. For some reason, my gut is saying that that's pretty strong. I mean, can't you just roll just roll all of your vehicles into engagement range and it won't make any difference to them? Now, as they say, Inexorable Advance is a detachment ability, which means that it applies to units in battle-forged Death Guard detachments. One of the notable effects of this ability is that Death Guard units will usually be able to move and fire their heavy weapons without penalty, perfect for bombarding your foes, even as you advance on objectives. It also works hand in hand with the Malicious Volleys ability to ensure that your infantry can make the most of their rapid-fire weapons, even while they're on the move. So, Malicious Volleys, the Death Guard, for all their heresy, are still Space Marines, and are experts at making war with their bolters. Yes, I mean, it's not wrong, but it's also not the most, mind-blown sentence I've ever read for fluff stuff for rules. Instead of following the normal rules for rapid-fire weapons, models in this unit shooting rapid-fire bolt weapons make double the number of attacks if any of the following apply. Shooting model's target is within half the weapon's range. Okay. Shooting model is infantry and its unit remained stationary in your previous move phase. And the shooting model is a Terminator. For the purpose of this ability, a rapid-fire bolt weapon is any bolt weapon with the rapid-fire type. Right. So essentially the Death Guard just walk forwards and fire endlessly, and within not a huge amount of time will be doing the whole double shot rapid fire thing at you. Yeah, definitely feeling quite brutal at this point. I mean, that might not even be that great at the end of the day when we get all the other stuff, but that feels pretty decent to me. Also, the shooting model is infantry and its unit remains stationary in your previous movement phase, but Inexorable Advance, it counts as having remained stationary if it did not fall back or advance. So, does that mean you can still move? Its unit remains stationary. So, presumably, if you didn't fall back or advance, and you did move, according to Inexorable Advance, that means you count as remaining stationary. In which case, if any of the following apply, the shooting model is infantry and its unit remains stationary in your previous movement phase, you get to do rapid fire. Right? That's how I'm reading that. I'm assuming those two rules stack. I mean, they do say. It also works hand in hand with malicious volleys. So, yeah, okay. Sure. Wow, okay. Another crucial advantage Inexorable Advance offers that your bubonic Astartes vehicles will be able to hammer enemy units point blank with their ranged weapons at full efficiency. Yeah, we've covered that. That's mental. That's really cool. So, good start there. Good start. That's all there is for part 1, so we'll go straight on to part 2. That already feels pretty meat grindery, and I like how meat grindery that feels. That's nice. That is nice. Okay, part 2. So we've got Deadly Pathogens. The Death Guard Codex is on its way early next year, and it features 5 key changes. I won't do that every time, I was just doing that for the lols. Next up is their Deadly Pathogens ability. These optional upgrades can be applied to a plague weapon wielded by one of your Death Guard characters for a nominal charge in points or power. Not only does it add 1 to the strength of the plague weapon, but you can also choose one of 7 effects to apply to it as well. Excellent use of the 7 there, loving it. Viscous death. Viscous, not vicious, viscous. Filthy slime fills the rounds of this weapon and coats them. When fired, the explosive splashes spread the pathogen in all directions. Each time you roll to determine the number of attacks made with this weapon, you can re-roll the result. Okay, that's kind of cool. That's kind of fun. That gives a horrendous mental image, though. I mean, presumably, every time you fire, there's just going to be a bunch of goo and just horrible slime and sludge that flies out with it. Surely that's what they're going for. Ugh. Ugh. It's going to mean your gun's looking like it's... Let's not go down that road. As well as allowing you to reroll the number of attacks made, Viscous Death will bump up the Twin Plague Spewer's already brutal profile to Strength 6-2. That means you'll be wounding anything with Toughness 3 or less on a 2+, and rerolling any rolls of 1 to wound. Okay, let's get on to part 3. So this is Remorseless. The Death Guard Codex. Next up this week is the Death Guard's Remorseless ability, which offers protection against the effects of combat attrition. So Remorseless. The Death Guard are never perturbed, for there are few things more horrifying than they, and they know the Plague God smiles down upon them. I like that. Each time a combat attrition test is taken for this unit, ignore any or all modifiers. So all of the Death Corps, all of the core Death Guard infantry units, namely Plague Marines, Death Guard Possessed, Blight Lord Terminators and Death Shroud Terminators, come with this handy ability. With Toughness 5 and multiple wounds apiece, not to mention the effects of Disgustingly Resilient, these models are hard enough to kill in the first place. Yeah, you're unlikely to suffer additional losses from failed morale tests. They are feeling beefy as... beefy AF, I think, is probably the term. Right. So, part 4 is Disgustingly Resilient. So let's see what this does. This could be, again, probably quite fun. The Death Guard... Don't worry, this is the last part, so you won't have to suffer through that joke again. Next up this week, we're casting a spotlight on a special rule that's practically synonymous with the Death Guard, their Disgustingly Resilient ability. Yes, Disgustingly Resilient, those favoured by Nurgle are inured to pain, their rotting bodies shrugging off all but the most traumatic damage with ease. Each time an attack is allocated to a model in this unit, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack, to a minimum of 1. Okay, so that's right, Grandfather Nurgle has been cooking up an improved concoction of blessings that will further enhance the resilience of his favoured warriors. The Death Guard, with the new codex, will be ignoring 1 wound guaranteed against any attacks that deal more than 1 damage. So yeah, when you consider that Plague Marines, Death Guard Possessed, Blight Lord Terminators and Death Shroud Terminators also gain an additional wound in the new codex, it makes the Legion a true force to be reckoned with. 2 damaged weapons that are the bane of Space Marines of every stripe simply won't cut it against the Death Guard. Okay, so I took just a little bit of time to think about what I'm going to say in terms of the disgustingly resilient thing, because I feel like it's weird. So with disgustingly resilient before, you had your 5+ feel no pain. Fine, cool, good ability, good, we liked it, excellent. This one could be seen as a direct nerf, because now you're not getting to roll against all damage, it's just that when something does 2 damage or higher, the amount of damage it deals is reduced by 1. Which means that 2 damage weapons are just guaranteed to only do 1 now, which is, of course, better. I think the chances of passing both disgustingly resilient if you rolled them is probably lower than guaranteed to take off, just 1 damage off every time. So I think in that respect it's fine. The thing where it gets complicated for me trying to work this out is that the units it's applying to, in some cases, aren't the same anyway. So before you could look at it and go, well, okay, it's not as great because now Death Guard technically are more susceptible to las guns than they were before, which feels like it shouldn't be the case because they're las guns. And how are they doing more damage? They're not. They're doing the same amount of damage, and actually, Plague Marines, all the Chaos Space Marine side of the Death Guard Codex, they're all getting an additional wound. So because their stat line has changed, because their profile has changed, they are themselves now more resilient to las gunfire, but disgustingly resilient doesn't make them more resilient to las gunfire. It's like a weird... I think it probably, in some cases, isn't as good. In some cases, is better. It feels like it's probably a side grade of sorts, and I think it is slightly complicated by the fact that you've got these things with now an additional wound on top of what they would have had anyway, which kind of makes them more tough to begin with in the first place before you even get round to the fact that disgustingly resilient is different. So, I don't know, it's a weird one, it's an interesting change. It makes me wonder what they can do with things like Poxwalkers, because, I mean, they just get mulched now, surely. Maybe they get something, maybe they just get a 5+ feel no pain, and that is what they have. Maybe that's just what they get. Maybe there's an aura of something that might provide it. I don't know, we need to see more of the Codex to find out, but yeah, weird one. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think of that change to disgustingly resilient, because I feel like I haven't checked yet, but I'm assuming that if I go to my usual haunts on the internet, there's going to be all sorts of interesting discussions about that. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Anything in there stand out particularly? Any Math Hammer addicts around that want to break down how the increase in wounds against things like single damage weapons and how it fares up against 2 damage weapons? And if you want to get into that, by all means, go for it. I'm sure plenty of us will actually find that pretty interesting. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click it if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you would like. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.